there's a really good history in the period at the ends of the Knights era in Malta, the Napoleonic period and the beginning of the British period, because there's so much going on around the world, was going on around the world. And this little chat is about how I think Malta caused the French to lose their assets in North America. And basically what happened is that France was the number one ally of America when it got its independence. And obviously there was a lot of gratitude there. And subsequently, much later, the British got total control of Canada and the French part of Canada, Quebec, because there were so many French people there. The British decided to leave them alone and let them have this fake French area, which still exists now. They have the French language still, they have their own immigration rules. And though it's totally enclosed by Canada, it's this little area of fake Frenchness. There were two tiny bits of Canada left which are still French. It's Miquelon and Saint-Pierre, which are islands off the coast near Newfoundland. And they're tiny little islands, still a French sovereign territory. So Napoleon was in Europe having problems with Russia, having problems with Portugal, Britain on the top and the north, Britain in Malta. And he assumed if he sold Louisiana to Jefferson, to the United States, he would get an army to help him fight. Of course, it didn't happen, thank God. And what happened was Jefferson said, please sell us Louisiana. And Napoleon thought, well, what's Louisiana? It's on the other side on the west side of the Mississippi. Nothing there apart from Red Indians. And he said, okay, we'll sell it for whatever it was, a few dollars or cents an acre. And the French sold the people in the land. They didn't only sell the land, they actually sold the people too. And of course, the mistake for France was Louisiana went all the way to Canada, but that's another story. So France had problems because its tenure of Malta was short, and the fact it lost Malta wasn't particularly a problem in the Mediterranean because there are other places like Malta. But the problem for France was Britain got hold of Malta because the Maltese asked for some protection. It meant that the British had a naval base in the middle of the Mediterranean, and it messed around with all the shipping to Africa, Corsica, Balearics, Spain, all around Italy. And it was a thorn in the side of Napoleon. And he did say once, I think he said, I would rather, I'll rephrase it, I think he once said, I will swap the Champs-Élysées for Malta. I think that's what he said. So fundamentally, the reason he sold Louisiana was because he was spending all his time, or a lot of his time, fighting closer to home. And in the Mediterranean, there was the Battle of the Nile. He lost a fleet, and he lost some treasure, which was on one of the boats. And it damaged his confidence as much as anything else. And his desires in Egypt and in North Africa were spoilt. If you go to Place Vendôme in Paris, you'll see there are ancient Roman treasures looted from around Africa and Europe, and there's obelisks in Paris, and the Louvre is full of stuff they've nicked from elsewhere, a bit like the British Museum, to be honest. And so I think that if you look at Malta, France, Portugal, Spain, in that time, there's such a lot going on. And when there was the Treaty of Amiens, the treaty tried to make peace, and amongst other things, Minorca was given to Spain so that the Spanish would cede Gibraltar a second time, because they were grumbling that the British had got hold of Gibraltar, but Minorca was given to them to make them shut up a second time, and they, of course, they accepted Minorca, and of course now they still want Gibraltar back. So there was the Spanish history, there was the Maltese history, the British history, the American history. The Russian history is monumental when it comes to Napoleon. Far more intrusive and damaging than anything. Britain suffered for certain. And of course, there's all the history with Italy, which wasn't one country before around 1860 something, and the era has implications to the stock I sell. So I have to look at it because I've got pictures, and I need to know whether the pictures I sell are from the Knights era or the French era or the British era, and it's the same with some of the other stuff we have. So I have to look at this period, and when I have looked at it, I found it incredibly interesting. Of course, the American dimension is very interesting to anyone who is British. So there is a Maltese narrative which I respect 100%, and there is a British narrative which is different to the English narrative. I respect those narratives, of course, as well. There's an American narrative. They are in love with the French Revolution, which was before Napoleon was the emperor. Though Napoleon was part of it, the problem with the French Revolution is Bastille Day celebrates murder without trial. That's what happened on Bastille Day. People were murdered for being assumed to be friendly with the Emperor of France, and I can't understand why it's celebrated. It was mob ethnic cleansing, and even Napoleon himself. If you go to Paris, there is a mausoleum to Napoleon, when the French people queue up and they put roses on his coffin, and they all cry. But he was a war criminal. He executed prisoners, thousands and thousands and thousands of them. So the French history to me is peculiar. Napoleon escaped imprisonment, and did it all twice. So he's a two-time emperor dictator, and had to be stopped twice. So the history is wonderful, and that's really the end of the chat. France lost America because of Malta. Thank you.